the payday lending regulation came into effect by government in November of 2009, the licensing fees that were set then were just based on an estimate of the day. And so since then, Consumer Protection BC has been trying to understand the industry a little bit, what's involved with regulating the industry for us. And as a cost recoverable not-for-profit corporation, we decided that we needed to raise the fees at this time. I'll give you a sense of some of the numbers of the things that we've been doing since 2009. So we've actually opened and closed about 212 complaint files around the payday lending industry since 2009. And a lot of those actually have been closed voluntarily. The files have been closed because of voluntary compliance. So that means that the business was informed of what they were doing is maybe not right according to the law, and they came into compliance on their own. So some of the issues were, for example, they didn't know they needed to be licensed, or they weren't doing everything they needed to do to be licensed, or perhaps their contracts weren't in compliance with the law. And anytime there's a new industry that is regulated, there is a time period where people need to learn a little bit more about the law. So, yeah.
Why the focus on payday loan companies?
Well, actually, we did a fee review last year of all our other regulated industries, and the reason we didn't include them last year is because that industry was so new, and we wanted to give it all a chance for us to understand that industry a little bit better.
And how do you understand it better?
Well, we learn as we go along, and then we have some statistics behind us in terms of the numbers of calls that we get, the number of inspections that we do, the enforcement files, and then we work with the industry as well.
And what was the gist of maybe a few of the calls that you did get, the complaints against payday loan companies, for instance?
Well, again, I'll give you a number that helps put things into a little bit of perspective. Since 2009, we've gotten about 650 calls from consumers around the payday loan industry. Now, I'll say that with the caveat that they're not all complaints. Sometimes they're just questions. But the one area that's definitely come out in front in terms of the questions we get from consumers are just around the cost of their loan. And a really great thing about doing this interview is to let consumers know what their rights are around payday lending. So they do have rights in British Columbia, and that's one of the things that we do when people phone is we let them know what their rights are. So, for example, in British Columbia, a consumer should never have to pay more than $23 on the $100 that they borrowed. No fees, no charges, no matter what, no more than 23%.
So what potential harm is there for people, for consumers using, and how do you protect them from?
Okay. Well, I think that for consumers, there's a lot of, everybody's different. And sometimes people can find themselves in debt and they're not exactly sure how to get out of it. And they may go to a payday lender, and that's a completely legitimate reason, and it might work really well for some people. But sometimes other people don't have all the information, and they find themselves in a cycle of debt. And so that could be the risk to consumers. And what we do is we take enforcing the law really seriously so that people can understand their rights and make informed decisions when it comes to using payday loans.
Good. What are some tips that you can offer for people who might be using these facilities?
Sure. Well, according to the law, there's some things that consumers need to get, and I mentioned that the 23%. So consumers should never be charged more than 23% of the amount that they borrowed, no matter what. Consumers also have until the end of the next business day to cancel their contract, no matter what, again. So that's really important for consumers to know. And there's a few other tips that we like to share. For example, insurance is optional. You don't have to get insurance. And that all payday lenders need to display posters in their locations with the interest rates that they charge. And so all of these things are to help consumers make informed decisions.
Good.
Is that it's really important for consumers to understand their rights around this issue. So we have done some consumer education. We have a brochure that now consumers can find in all the payday lending locations that, what people need to know when they're getting a loan. So just to try and make an informed decision. And something else that we're going to be doing is in the fall we're going to be doing a bit of an online campaign around debt collection and payday lending, so consumers can check us out on our website and Facebook and get a lot of really good information. But what people should know is that if they have questions about payday lending, or they're finding themselves in debt and they're not sure who to turn to, there are organizations out there that can help. Just give us a call. So if you're not sure who to phone us.